Today I'm going to show you a video or a build video of the new Blade Fusion 480. My goal for this video series is I will go ahead and build it, per the manual, starting with the head and go on, as per page, and basically highlight key things that I look at or make sure is in place when I put a helicopter together through years of experience. Let's get started. So basically here on the first page, on the first step, it calls for putting together the head, which is contained in this bag. We have the head in here, and I've opened it, but I haven't taken it all apart. That's what's included in this bag. And we'll put the main gear aside, the swash aside, the main shaft, and we're gonna go ahead and focus on the head. And on the first step, it states to remove the spindle bolts in there, and put Loctite in it. Actually, I forgot. It states also there to make sure that the threads are clean and then Loctite it. So what I'm gonna do first is take this all apart and show you some key things I look for before putting it back together. Okay, so this is the head all taken apart. Now, per the manual, you don't have to go this far. What it states is you pull out the spindle bolt, soak them in alcohol, so it takes out all the oils that come from the factory, and that's done to prevent rusting, while the basically the kits are in storage. After you clean the threads, put Loctite on it and put it back in. I took it all apart just so I could see how it was put together in the factory, because I'm fairly meticulous in putting helis together. What I need to do next here is take care of all the other screws like this, and they do have oil in it. You can see, dip them in alcohol, get it all cleaned out, get some Loctite on them, and put them back on. So I have to do it on every screw or bolt, for the entire thing. So I also prefer packing a little bit more grease on my dampers just so they last longer. Being in Southern California, it's very dry and hot, so I would like to have an extra bit of lubrication in there. So that's what I'll do right now. Is I'll go ahead and Loctite all the screws and start putting this back together. I have packed grease on the outer side, a little bit extra more grease on the outer side of the dampeners in both sides. And I wanted to highlight for the beginners, when you insert the spindle into the dampeners, you'd also want to have some grease on, extra grease here. But the whole point of me showing this part of the video is do not get grease inside the threads. So what I typically do is I get the spindle bolt. Actually, this has a washer, so I took the washer off for now and put the spindle bolt on. And what I'll do is basically coat this extra grease and then insert it. That way I don't get grease into the threads, when you get to that point. So I just wanted to highlight that. So far, I put together and Loctited every bolt on both blade grips. The bolts for the mixing arms, all I did was clean them. I didn't Loctite them because you would have to tighten them down later when you put the main shaft in. So I just left it like that for now. What I'm going to do right now is go ahead and insert this, and I'll get back. Alright, so I inserted the spindle. Have ample grease on both sides. I'm not sure if you can see that, but I got it lightly packed now. The washer here has a step. So just to highlight, that step actually faces the bearing side. So the smooth side goes towards the spindle. So there, like that. Spindle bolt. Get some Loctite on it. Now, when you put Loctite, be careful not to put too much. The problem is, if you put too much, it gets squeezed out of the spindle and might contaminate your thrust bearings and just totally make the head bind up. All right, so make sure you only have it on a few of the threads, and then go ahead and install it. Have to do both sides. Step side towards the bearing. And now at this point, you will need 2 3mm Allen wrenches, so you can tighten both the bolts down at the same time. That should be it. On the next part of the manual, it asks that you remove every ball off the swash and Loctite it. Now these balls don't have any oil from the factory. Now it's up to you. You can soak them if you want, but I won't. Typically stainless steel balls like this, and this doesn't look like it has any oil at all. I just go ahead and Loctite and put them all in. Alright, so I'll go ahead and do that, and we'll be back. So I finished putting Loctite on all the balls. But it's fairly straightforward. Just take out Loctite and install. So the next step is to install the main shaft and swash together with the head. So here you take out the bolt that was in here, and on your main shaft you have the hole that's on the shorter side, like closer to the outer edge. That's where you insert swash, and then go ahead and insert. Now this time, I'm not going to tighten this yet. Our next step is basically to remove this, apply a little bit of Loctite, and what I like to do is tighten the mixing arms, alternate. Alternate. I would tighten this back and forth, just so as it squeezes onto the main shaft, it's even. What we'll do now is take this off and apply Loctite on it. Now be careful applying Loctite on this, because if it gets in the bearings as well, it may damage it. So I already cleaned this earlier, so just apply a very minimal amount of Loctite, just enough, just a little bit on the threads. Okay, keep that loose. Okay, so as I tighten, I will go back and forth, making sure that they feel somewhat the same when I tighten them down. There it goes. Smooth, nice and tight and smooth. Oh, and don't forget that bolt. And I think that's a 3mm. It is, and I need to get something to hold it down. Okay. Snap this on. There you go. Alright, so next step is basically making the links, and the links for here. But so far, looking great. Okay, let me just interrupt this build video for a minute. I just want to highlight something, and as you can see, the heli is built, but I realized that I forgot to Loctite these bolts, the little bolts that are on the mixing arms, right there. And there's 4 of them. There's 1, 2 on the other side, 3 and 4. So there's 4 little ones. Make sure that you pull it out, clean it, and then put Loctite on it. And be careful not to put too much Loctite, or it might ooze into the bearings of the mixing arms and bind it up. Okay, so we'll continue with the build. So next step on the manual is to install the links. So it came in the bag, in this bag with a blade holder, and here they are. So there are 2, 3 actually that are longer. Pardon that motorcycle passing by. I'm in my garage, and then 2 that are shorter. The shorter ones are the one that goes from the swash onto the grips, and it says there's set them at 55 millimeters, and I did measure this, and mine was spot on at 55 millimeters. Right there, it's spot on. So I wouldn't be too concerned, because the beauty of how Blade has done this is their turnbuckles. So I would be adjusting all of this anyways later on, once I get the fly barless system centered. With the turnbuckles, it's going to be so easy. You just turn this and it adjusts the whole thing up and down. You don't have to pop it off and turn it like some of the other helis out there. So this is a great thing to have. So this typically, just from years of building, I tend to have a habit of finding the same side for the way I snap it. There's really no disadvantage, if, or any advantages if you snap it, any direction. I just like to know to start off that they're all in the same side. So the way I will do it is on the links here. There's a little dot mark, and what I'll do is put the dot outside, outside for this, outside for that. There you go, and that completes the head setup portion on the manual. And I will go on, and that will complete this video, and I will begin the setup of the frame, which will be another video.